Okay, let's unpack this feeling. You're buzzing with ambition, right? Those
Yeah.
incredible goals are crystal clear. Maybe it's launching a side project, finally mastering that language, or, picturing a fitter, healthier you.
hmm
You've got the vision. But then, when it's time to actually get the ball rolling,
Yeah.
suddenly the gravitational pull of the couch becomes irresistible.
It,
Sound familiar?
oh, absolutely. It's a surprisingly universal thing. We have these big aspirations, this really vivid picture of where we want to be.
Right.
But that initial push, the actual starting part, often feels like wading through, well, thick mud.
Yeah.
And maybe this comes from a sort of subconscious thing, like wanting to feel totally in control before you face the uncertainty of actually doing something.
Like needing the perfect plan first.
Exactly. Over planning gives you this illusion of being prepared, which can feel, well, safer than just jumping in.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've been digging into a fantastic YouTube video. It's called English Podcast for Learning English Ambitious but Lazy English Leap Podcast. Oh, yeah.
From the Speak English with Class channel.
Right.
So hats off to Evan and Aaron, the hosts over there. They really nailed some relatable points.
Mm-hmm. And what's really good about their take is how they just acknowledge that tension, the driven mind fighting against what looks like laziness or uh, no energy.
Sorry.
They don't just give you the usual just try harder advice.
Wow.
They actually look at the psychology behind it.
And that's exactly what we want to do in this deep dive. We want to get the why behind this whole ambition, laziness thing that, let's face it, a lot of us deal with.
Right.
And more importantly, pull out some actual strategies straight from Evan and Aaron's chat that you, listening, can actually use to bridge that gap.
Yeah, definitely. The focus isn't just on pointing out the problem. We're looking for real solutions, those little mindset shifts and actual techniques that can make a big difference.
So maybe take a second now. Think about a big goal you've got right now. Could be anything, starting a business, learning French, finally getting fit.
You can see the end result, can't you? That future, successful you, feeling great. But what happens when it's actually time to take step one?
That's often where it hits, isn't it? That resistance. The first bit of excitement kind of fizzles out and suddenly it just feels huge, overwhelming,
Yeah.
which is a key thing Evan and Aaron talk about early on.
Exactly. They call it the planning paradox. We get so into the idea of the goal, the detailed plans, the exhaustive prep,
Right.
that we end up never, well, starting. I mean, I definitely do this. Before a big writing thing, suddenly my inbox needs cleaning.
Yeah.
My desk has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I have to research every possible angle. It feels productive, but really, it's often just putting it off.
That's it, exactly. And what's interesting is how our brains naturally kind of shy away from stuff that feels too big, too insurmountable. Evan and Aaron use a great analogy, like standing at the bottom of this massive mountain. The top just looks impossibly far away. Or they also compare it to running a marathon. 42 kilometers sounds terrifying if you haven't trained, even after just 100 meters.
Right. The effort just seems way too much.
Exactly. Way too much.
Okay, and that feeling that this is just too big feeling, it can completely stop us in our tracks. So what's the first strategy they suggest to fight that feeling of being buried?
Well, they suggest this really interesting mental trick. Switching from writing to-do lists.
Okay.
Those things that just remind us constantly what we haven't done, to writing past tense done statements.
Hold on, past tense done statements. So instead of writing, I need to study today,
Yeah.
I'd write, I sat down, focused, and studied for an hour. I even took a break and felt really good after. Is that it? Kind of like celebrating before you've even done it?
That's exactly the idea. By phrasing it like it's already finished, you're sort of tricking your brain, signaling that the hard part's over. It creates this mental picture of success and dials down that feeling of dread about the future task.
Okay, that clicks. Because my usual list might be gym, study 2 hours, clean apartment, finish work project. Just looking at it makes me tired.
Exactly. It's just a list of demands, right? But now, think about their past tense version. Went to the gym for 30 minutes, felt great. Then I studied for 2 hours, actually easier than I thought. Even managed to tidy up and finish my work project before dinner. Felt really accomplished.
Wow. Okay, that feels totally different. It sounds doable even. Nice.
Right.
It focuses on the good results and makes the tasks seem like things that are already handled.
And they add, if even a whole day written like that feels like too much pressure,
Yeah.
they say make it even smaller. Just focus on one single task and write that in the past tense. Like, I finished my work project today, and it felt fantastic.
So if I'm staring down that huge work project, I could just focus on, say, writing one section or even just the first paragraph,
Mhm.
and then write, completed the intro for my work project, felt good to get started.
Precisely. And they also point out the extra motivation you get from imagining that feeling of relief,
Yeah.
that sense of accomplishment after doing even that one small thing.
Okay.
It's like starting a positive feedback loop right from the beginning.
Okay, I'm liking this. Shifting from to do to already done. That's a really simple but kind of powerful brain hack.
Yeah.
But what about those tasks that are just, well, boring? How do we handle the ambitious, lazy thing when the work itself feels like pulling teeth?
Okay, yeah. That brings us to their next strategy,
Yeah.
making work feel like play.
Ah, okay.
The basic idea is transforming those dull tasks into something more engaging, more fun to sort of boost your motivation.
Yeah. They had some really down-to-earth examples, like putting on your favorite playlist while you clean up,
Mm.
or working somewhere different, like even just moving from your desk to a comfy chair can sometimes shift things.
It's interesting, isn't it, how tiny changes can totally change how we feel about a task.
Yeah.
It's about adding a bit of novelty or, pleasure
Yeah.
into something that feels like a slog.
And for stuff that needs real focus, like studying, they mentioned gamification.
Right. Like setting a timer for short bursts
Mm-hmm.
and challenging yourself. See how much you can get done in that little window.
Mm.
Turns it into a kind of mini game against yourself.
Yeah, like a personal best kind of thing.
Exactly. It adds that competitive edge, even if it's just against the clock. And of course, they mentioned rewards too.
Oh, yeah.
The classic, if I finish this chapter, then I get that coffee break.
Definitely a fan of the reward system. It's like training your brain, but for getting stuff done. Okay, so we've got ways to start tasks, ways to make them less awful.
Mm.
But what about that thing where you start something all keen and then just drift off halfway through?
Ah, yes. This is where the unfinished task effect comes in,
Mm.
or the Zeigarnik effect, it's also called.
Zeigarnik effect.
Yeah, it's this psychological thing where our brains tend to remember incomplete stuff better than finished stuff. Evan and Aaron explain it as our brain just not liking loose ends. It's that nagging feeling you get when something's left hanging.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's like when you start a really good series on Netflix.
Yeah,
And even though it's super late, you just have to watch one more episode to see what happens.
exactly that. Our brains are wired for closure, basically. So the strategy here is to use that effect to our advantage. Instead of aiming to finish the whole task,
Uh-huh.
the goal is just to start it.
So instead of thinking, I need to write this whole report,
Yeah.
I just aim for, like, the first sentence.
Precisely.
Just trick my brain into getting the ball rolling.
Exactly. That tiny first step can be enough to trigger your brain's built-in desire to see it through. Once you've started, that natural pull to finish what you started often kicks in.
That's clever. It really lowers the bar to getting started. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're starting, we're trying to enjoy it, we're using our brain's need for closure. But what about making sure we're actually working on the right stuff? Because I know I can spend hours feeling busy, but not actually get closer to my big goals.
Oh, that's a huge one. And Evan and Aaron tackle it with the Eisenhower matrix.
Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah. They use a great analogy being on a treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting in a lot of effort, sweating maybe, but you're not actually going anywhere important.
Been there, done that.
Right. And this habit of doing urgent but unimportant things might be because they give us that quick hit of accomplishment, even if they don't really matter in the long run.
Okay, so tell me about this matrix. How does it work?
It's actually pretty simple, but really effective. It helps you prioritize based on two things, urgency and importance.
Urgency and importance, okay.
And it divides your tasks into 4 boxes, 4 quadrants.
Right, break it down for me.
Okay, first box, important and urgent. These are the must-do nows. Deadlines, crises, things with immediate consequences if you don't act.
Got it. Firefighting stuff.
Pretty much. Second box, important but not urgent. These are your big picture goals. Learning a skill, working on long-term projects, exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Things that really move the needle for your future, but don't have that screaming deadline right now.
Right, the stuff that's easy to push off because it doesn't feel immediately necessary.
Exactly. Then quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. Think interruptions, lots of emails, some meetings,
Uh-huh.
things that demand your attention now but don't actually help you achieve your main goals. Busy work, basically.
Okay.
And finally, box 4, neither important nor urgent. These are the time sinks. Mindless scrolling, binge watching, random stuff.
Ah. So my deep dive into 2 hours of productivity videos probably landed right in that last box, didn't it?
Well, possibly. I mean, if it felt like research but didn't actually lead to you doing anything differently,
Yeah, fair.
then it was likely a distraction.
Mhm.
The real power of the matrix is forcing you to actually classify your tasks. And often, you realize a lot of stuff that feels urgent can actually be delegated or just ignored, deleted.
That's a really practical way to get clarity on where time is actually going and what really needs focus.
Okay, so we're prioritizing. What's next in cracking this ambitious lazy code?
Well, the next hurdle Evan and Aaron talk about is the fear of failure,
Ah,
which
yes.
often shows up as procrastination, right? They talk about how perfectionism can actually make us avoid starting tasks altogether.
Oh, I feel that one. If I don't think I'm going to be instantly amazing at something, I'm way less likely to even try it.
Exactly. And they make a really key point. The problem is being bad at something when you start. Everyone is.
Right.
The problem is expecting to be brilliant right away. That unrealistic expectation just paralyzes you.
Okay. So what's the strategy then?
Their strategy is kind of counterintuitive. It's to actively embrace being bad at something.
Wait, what? Like deliberately pick something I know I'll be terrible at.
Exactly. Find a hobby or an activity just for fun where there's zero pressure to be good.
They give examples like, I don't know, terrible dancing around your living room, chaotic baking where it doesn't matter if it looks awful, drawing stick figures.
Okay.
The whole point is to disconnect your enjoyment and your sense of self-worth from how skilled you are at it.
That's actually a really interesting way to look at it. It's about the process, not the
Yeah.
result, and letting go of that fear of judgment.
Precisely. And when you dial down that fear of failure, you become more willing to just start things. And ironically, that's what actually leads to real progress and getting better over time.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together. Make it easy to start, make it more fun, use brain quirks, focus on the right things, let go of being perfect. What's the final piece they offer?
The last strategy is about making your motivation stick long term. It's called thinking like your future successful self.
Thinking like my future self.
Yeah, it means shifting how you think away from what you feel like right now toward your bigger goals.
So instead of asking, ugh, what do I feel like doing? I ask, okay, what would the successful version of me do right now?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
It's about making your actions today line up with where you want to be tomorrow.
Okay, how do you actually do that?
They suggest a couple of steps. First, be really honest and just write down your current daily routine and habits. Like, what do you actually do all day?
Okay, like a reality check.
Then picture and write down your ideal daily routine. What would a typical day look like for that future successful you?
Right.
If your goal is to be, say, a super productive writer, what time would they wake up? How would they structure their day? What habits would they have?
So creating a clear picture of that aspirational self in action.
Exactly. And then the final step is to compare the two lists of your reality and your ideal
Okay.
and find small, doable habits you can start adding today to close that gap. So if future you wakes up early and gets straight to focused work,
Yeah.
maybe today starts by just setting the alarm 15 minutes earlier and using that time for your most important task. No huge changes, just small steps.
That's a really practical way to make those big goals feel less abstract and build momentum now. It's not about flipping a switch overnight, but making tiny, consistent moves in the right direction.
Precisely. It's about starting to be the person you want to become
Yeah.
right now in small ways.
Wow, these are all genuinely helpful, actionable strategies. Evan and Aaron really did a great job breaking down this whole ambitious but lazy thing, made it understandable, and gave real solutions. They even threw in a useful vocabulary review in their video, which is probably worth a quick mention.
Oh, absolutely. Knowing the words helps, right? Like ambitious, wanting success, like Sarah wanting to be a doctor, or overwhelmed, too much pressure, or like tons of homework.
Right, and procrastination, putting stuff off, like Jake finishing late, instinct, that natural reaction, like jumping in a noise.
Yeah, and accomplish, like actually finish something big, running that marathon. Distractions, things pulling your focus, like social media constantly pinging.
Totally. Perspective, just your way of looking at things. Perfectionism, that need for everything to be flawless, which actually slows you down.
And things like cliffhanger, that suspenseful ending that makes you want more.
Mm.
Delegating, giving tasks to others, and binge watching, watching episode after episode.
Yeah.
Having those words just gives you a better handle on talking about productivity and habits. Their definitions and examples really helped clarify things.
Right, so knowing the lingo helps us talk about and tackle these challenges better. Okay, so just to recap. We've looked at shifting mindset with those past tense done statements.
Yep, to beat the overwhelm.
Making tasks more fun to get motivated, using that unfinished task effect to keep going.
Leveraging the Zeigarnik effect.
Yeah.
Prioritizing with the Eisenhower matrix so we're busy on the right things. Embracing being bad at stuff to kill that fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, thinking like our future successful self to connect today's actions to tomorrow's goals.
Exactly. It's a really solid toolkit for fighting that common ambition-laziness feeling.
Well, listener, it kind of sounds like the excuses have just evaporated. These are all things you can actually start doing, like today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe, as you think about all this, here's a final thought. Picture that future successful version of yourself again, the one you imagined earlier.
Okay.
What's just one small thing you could do today, right now even, that future you would look back on and be genuinely proud of? What would that one single step be?